I hope you all can see my screen, right?
You can continue.
Okay. Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. Welcome to the Code Where You Build Web Console session. So, in this session, we are going to decode what is exactly the web console and what is the future of development and address all your questions. Before we begin, I just want to give a quick reminder about the Salesforce forward-looking statements. Please make all your purchasing decisions based on the currently and generally available products and not the products that are on the roadmap, including whatever I'm going to speak today. And as a ritual, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me today. Hope you're going to learn a lot from this session. And as I always say, community love is always infectious. Like community shares a lot of feedbacks, shapes the Salesforce products, and constructive feedbacks about a lot of things that is going on in the community. So thank you so much for being the valuable member in the Salesforce ecosystem. Here is a little bit about me. I'm Logesh and I work as a senior technical consultant at Salesforce, and I've been with Salesforce for around 2.5 plus years now. And in the Salesforce ecosystem is around 6 years now. And I'm a multi-cloud Salesforce developer and a consultant, meaning I worked in multiple cloud sales, service, experience, data cloud, platform, education, communications, etc. And I'm a Salesforce credentials ambassador as well, where I contributed as a Salesforce subject matter expert to some of the super badges that you have noticed in the Agentforce Legend, Champion, and Innovator. And I'm a trail guide as well, and I'm a TDX and a community speaker. Okay, enough about me. And if you want to connect with me, you can always reach out to me in LinkedIn. So post the session if you have any questions about the session or you want to learn more or know more about the web console, you can reach out to me in the LinkedIn, sharing your questions. And of course, please don't spam me by just saying hi and just vanish. Okay, so we have the packed agenda today. First, we're gonna take a look at the classic dev console issues, and then we're gonna deep dive into the web console, what exactly it is, and what is the use of it. Why now web console, right? Why Salesforce introducing web console now at this point of time? So, what is the future of the Salesforce developments? So, all those things we are going to cover, and then we are going to cover the features of the web console, and then we are going to see the live demo. Yes, we are not just going to talk; we are just going to see the things in action. And of course, we will address all your burning questions at the end. Okay, so before I start, I just wanted to, give quick glimpse about the 27 years of innovation that Salesforce does. Right from the 1999, where Salesforce was established with just Sales Cloud, and where we are now with Slackbot. So throughout these years, innovation has been the Salesforce DNA. Taken a lot of feedbacks from the community, reshaped the products, and developed a lot of things to the community. So all these things could have not been possible without the community, right? So we all started with the basic era, like where 1999, where Salesforce first introduced, uh, you know, all these things belongs to the cloud, and that's where the Sales Cloud came into the picture. And then came the intelligence era, where the Einstein was introduced, and that is where we are in the agentic era, where Agentforce, Slackbot, and a lot of agentic tools are being very popular and being helpful in the community. And before I start, I just want to have a quick interaction with the community. So what are the common issues that you face in the classic dev console or a developer console? You can shoot your answers in the comments. There might be something that is troubling you for a long time in the developer console that you wish you know to take out. I can see 31 participants. Guys, no one. I know it's a Saturday morning. Yeah. Thank you so much, Durga Devi. It's LWC coding. Yes, of course, it's a number one pain point in the dev console. What else? All right, let me move on. So the classic issue with the dev console is thank you, Mukesh, not a proper debug. Thank you, Kalai Selvan, not visually available to debug. Yes, of course it is. And that is where the web console comes into the scene. Bharat, thank you. API access errors. Yes, I second that. Okay. So what are the classic issues or the legacy pain points, I should say, with the developer console, right? When there is something with the LWC, you always have to migrate to VS Code, as the dev console lacks that native support, right? Because you can access Apex and Aura components, not the LWC components. And always when you try to debug any like the large debug logs, you always face a performance issue. Sometimes the dev console will crash, so you cannot able to access anything, right? And sometimes you have to start from the beginning. And if you're doing any heavy coding, right, with the dev console, it has no such that UI that supports the modern IDE things like the IntelliSense or the VS Code or the Git-based integrations. So dev console has nothing. You just see and you just code and save it. That's it. And the list goes on, like you always say, like the freezing, unresponsive, the API access errors, not visually appealing. Yes, all these issues that dev console has. And of course, it delays the deployments, right? When you're stuck with something, let's say when you have some issues in the production or the sandbox that you spend a lot of time with your dev console and then fix the dev console first and then fix your code and then finally deploy it. So of course, it delays the deployments and then it delays the business value deliverability as well. And that is where the web console comes into the scene. So what is web console, right? So web console is basically a simple, modern, lightweight browser-based IDE rather than your org-based IDE. It's like a Visual Studio Code that sits on your browser with the Salesforce based credentials. And it is available anytime, anywhere. You don't have to set up anything, install the Salesforce CLI, install the Salesforce related extensions, and set up all those authorizations, all those stuff. Just one click, it will launch the web console. And you might be having this question, is web console is going to replace the dev console? Well, we don't have that definitive answer. Like I said, forward-looking statements apply. In future, there might be a chance that it will be an alternative to the developer console because developer console already got outdated. So whatever it is with the modern web standards, everything is going to come in the web console and its subsequent products. And plus, we have the unified developer experience, right? In the dev console, you can't do certain stuffs, um, like, setting the trace flags or running the sockets, or, checking certain things like, okay, this query satisfies all those my latency and the complexity conditions or not. With a modern view, you can do it in the dev console, but with just minimal access. But with the web console, you can, view all those details in a unified developer experience. And how does web console look like? So this is how it's going to look like, and I'm going to show exactly the web console in a minute. But yeah, this on a high level, this is how the web console looks like, and you might be very familiar with this screen. It's basically the VS Code version in the web, and where you can pull or extract your classes, LWC, and then you can start looking into it. You can set the debug logs, and then you can run your queries, you can run your debug anonymous window, and all those things in one place without crashing the experience and with a unified modern experience. How to enable web console, right? So it's very simple. First, navigate to the setup, quick find, and then start typing the enable web console. and you will see the option Web Console Beta, and you just need to toggle a button. That's it, and you can immediately launch the Web Console. A quick heads up I just want to give over here. Web Console is a beta service, which means it's not full-fledged generally available. It is launched as a beta. So use of this pilot or a beta service is at customer's sole discretion. And if you feel you need a more information about the web console, what data it's being using, and where it sits, how am I safe, how am I, going to trust this web console, putting all my metadata in it. So for all those questions, you can definitely reach out to Salesforce support, or you can reach out to your Salesforce account executives to get more information. What's the need of web console at this point of time, right? So I think developer console has launched in 2011. So it's been with us with almost more than 10 or 12 plus years now. Why at this point of time Salesforce came up with this web console feature, right? Because we are in the agentic era, we need a more unified experience to for our development, to debug and to test all those stuffs, the complete the life cycle. Now we are in the agentic development life cycle, right? So we need to test our agents in multiple scenarios, and there are too many disconnected systems. For Apex, you use Developer Console. For LWC, you use VS Code. And for Agent Force related stuffs, also use VS Code. So there are too many disconnected systems, right? And legacy experience, of course, Developer Console is a legacy one, right? And it's limiting. So you can't do certain stuffs in the Developer Console. And and the third one is the important one, that all the developers, it's not just the developers, the consultants, the architects, even admins, wanted to see the flow metadata XML to see what's exactly going on and run the code scan results and all those stuffs. So they want everything in a speed, in a context. It's not just like something you're launching out of nowhere where you don't have the context of your org. So that is also important, right? So all these things are the pain points for the developers and the existing problems. That is where Salesforce thought about launching the web console. It starts in the issue. So let's say you're going through, schedule job issue in production, and you wanted to see, where exactly the issue exists and what is the exact issue. And for that, what you will do, you will either open the dev console and you check the schedule jobs, or you set up your VS code and then Salesforce CLI, Salesforce extension, and then connect your org, authorize your unauthenticate your org, and then retrieve the data, and then you will look into the issue. So this whole process takes some time, and nobody is going to wait for that if it is a production issue. And the second thing is that stay in the flow. Like I mentioned, the context is more important than introducing a new shiny tool, right? And then the final thing is that resolve everything faster. So what you will do is you focus on the main issue rather than focusing on setting up all those environments. Now you might be thinking, okay, I get it. I have a VS Code. I have a dev console. Where does this web console live? So web console basically lives between your developer console and your VS Code. So developer console is your org-based thing, right? And VS Code is your local setup, which sits in your local, where you develop the things and you push the changes to the org. Web console lives in between that, which have the features of both, where you can quickly retrieve the data and push the data into the system. And you might be thinking, okay, so I opened the console and I did something accidentally, I closed it. And if I open it, what will happen? Will it start fresh? No. So wherever you left off, or wherever or whatever code you've been working, it will be immediately launched with this exactly the sample thing that you passed it for working. What are the features of Web Console? So right now, since it is in the beta feature, only 6 features are supported. So going on or in the future releases, this might be extended with a lot of capabilities. And of course, your feedback also does matters. If you feel like, getting more features that developer console doesn't support, like the API things, and you wanted to see the agent scripts, all those stuffs, please share those feedbacks. Salesforce is always listening to your feedbacks, and it may implement in the future releases. I can see a question from Sanjeev. Can we have save our new code change in a local using this web console? No. So this is purely web-based, and whatever you say, it just stays on that particular window and your R. That's it. It will never get saved in your local. Is web console integrated with Scale Center? Good question. At this point of time, I don't think so. But you can share these feedbacks in the community, and I will also pass on this feedback to the product managers. Okay, so first feature that sales the web console supports is explore your R metadata, and this is a basic feature that all the Salesforce users or the developers, consultants, architects needs. Right? I wanted to see what is my code, I wanted to see what is the LWC logics, and I wanted to see the metadata XML, the package.xml, all those things you can explore it using the web console. The same thing that you do it in the VS Code. And of course, it supports the socket builder, so you can run the socket queries, you can inspect your query plans, saying that your socket is performant efficient and it's compatible with existing logics. And then this is the most important thing when any issue happens, like you can use the logs viewer and you can trace out the logs to find the root cause, rather than setting up the debug logs inside your org and then finding out where that log exists and all those stuffs. And the fourth one is the important one, that is the quick in context edits. So it opens the file right inside your org, inside the web console, and you can quickly do a fix rather than setting all those tasks. And the next one is the anonymous Apex. You can run the logics instantly, like you do it in the debug anonymous window. And then finally, we have the Apex testing. So you can run the test classes, you can see the results, and then you can correct all those issues and all those stuff. So you might be wondering, I can do all this in the VS Code, right? Why do I need all this in the web console? Yes, correct. Your thinking is correct. But like I said earlier, it gets launched in the context of your org. So it eliminates all those prerequisites, setting up all those data and all those stuff. Let's say sometimes you run a Salesforce CLI issues and then you face outdated extension issues. So you will never face all those issues in the web console. So you can focus into all those issues exist in the class directly in the web console. Okay, so how does this web console works, right? Where exactly I can use this? So let's say you have the priority zero bug came in the production, and what you will do, basically look into all those issues where that issue exists, all those analysis you will do, and of course, it's a time for to check in the code as well to see what exactly happening. And for example, you take a null pointer exception, right, or a socket query exception where you're just wondering, okay, where does this exist? And then uh, you open your VS Code and you're trying to set up all those stuffs and it's crashing out. It's a priority zero. So of course it takes the high priority with many escalations, right? If you have worked in production, you might aware of this, what I'm saying. And then using Web Console, you can just quickly open the code in the context of your org. And of course, you can't directly fix it in production, right? That's the best practice. And of course, you can't edit the Apex classes in the production, and where you can use your sandboxes. And I hope that answers your question. Sanjeev, you can't edit the production code. That's the standard protocol that we follow. Using Web Console, you can view, but you can't edit the production code. And then finally, we will fix the issue in the sandbox. And then finally, we will validate it and then push it to the production. So this is a typical process that we follow, but Web Console eases up your process and saves a lot of time, investigating, focus more on investigating issue rather than focusing on setting up the things. The difference between Dev Console and the Web Console, right? The developer experience needs the unified experience, right? Because that is the one that matters most, rather than like staying on in the outdated UI. First is the project structure. The developer console has a flat file structure where you have to check or view your just a file, not the metadata XML where the API version supports. And where Web Console is a modern UI, it supports the all the Salesforce deaccelerated files that your organizations have. And of course, you can see all the API versions, run the code in the debug anonymous window, set up the debug logs, tracing logs, all those stuffs you can do it in the Web Console. Next one is the navigation. So you have to search for the files, right? In the dev console. Let's say I have an issue in the what to say, the schedule jobs or the schedule class. You have to search for the class and then where it is failing. But web console, just one click, it is context aware and it will automatically open your files, relevant files. And the interface, this is very well known. It's a legacy. Developer console is legacy. It's a limiter and it's a table heavy UI logic, right? It always provides that table it, a lot of things going in the same screen. Sometimes it crashes, right? And the web console provides a modern, it's a browser based experience rather than sitting inside your local. And coming to the logic, it's completely disconnected, right? If anything happens in the LWC, you don't have an option. You have to set up the VS Code and then you have to find the fix and then, debug it or validate it and then push it to the respective works. But Web Console is completely unified. It starts from the inspection till the validate. It provides all the experience workflows right inside in one experience. And the developer console is like a dev desktop experience, right? It focuses more on like that particular view, but it don't have much exposure to what exactly your org is going on. Let's say you want to open one of your Apex classes. Of course, you have to go to the dev console and open it. But inside the web console, it's built into your native systems and it's embedded in your org where you can launch your particular classes. I will take all those questions at the end. Yeah. So if you have any burning questions, you can start sharing that in the thread. We will go one by one at the end. Web console is a beta, like I mentioned. It's in a beta state as of today, as we are speaking today, June 6th, and it has been launched as a beta on April 14, 2026, and it has been available in all type of org editions. And since it is a beta feature, it is off by default and you have to enable it explicitly. And like I said, it's available in every org, available in developer edition, enterprise, unlimited performance, professional editions. But the available functionality varies because it totally depends upon the regions where the org has been set up. We have AMER, APAC in your region side, so we have to respect those countries' protocols. So it might slightly vary when you access the web console, but the experience is going to be the unique. And this is one of the common questions that everybody asks. Can I edit my Apex class in the production using the console? The short answer is no. Web console is designed to preserve your production guardrails and all those integrities. So you can't edit the Apex classes in production. Okay, so before we jump into the demo, let me just answer all your burning questions. Okay, give it a minute. Okay, let me start with Aryan. So moving forward, is Salesforce going to discontinue Dev Console? Good question. At this point of time, there is no such statement from Developer Console, sorry, Salesforce. But moving on, like Salesforce might introduce a lot of stuffs in the Web Console, and I think Developer Console didn't even receive any updates because it's done, right? And I don't have definitive answer for that question. And of course, forward-looking statements apply. Like if Salesforce comes up with any releases, yeah, there is a high chance that developer console will be discontinued. Does web console have the ability to set different log levels and does it auto purge the logs after certain time? So we are going to see that in the demo, Paul, and then we will see like it answers your question or not. Mahesh Babu, when will get released? It's already in the beta, so you can explore the web console in your developer edition orgs, and you can always feel free to share your thoughts and comments. Sanjeev, Can we get edit? I think I answered this question. You can't edit the production code. Ali Raja, Mi Raja. So can we see versions of Apex or LWC files that same as Lightning Flow in the web console? Yes. So, I mean, versions, you mean the API versions, or you mean different kinds of versions that you see for the flow? So, if you help clarify that, I can respond. But yeah, Apex and LWC don't support the versions as of now, like flows. You can see only its API version. White code from Shiva for Agent Force and this web console for developers. At this point of time, you can't access Agent Force vibes inside the web console. So this feedback is already taken and Salesforce is looking into it. At this point of time, you can't access Agentforce pipes inside the web console, but you can access Agentforce pipes inside the VS Code. If working from client's VPC, would additional security settings be needed for web console to work? I don't think so. Since this is launching in the R context, yes, thank you for answering that question, Aryan. So it's fully context aware and it's fully secure. All your authentications are protected. And of course, Salesforce, when it comes to the trust and security, it takes it to the core and very serious. Without your consent, nothing will be done. And all this are in the protected environment. So you don't need to worry about all those stuffs. I'm wondering how it is different from current Agent Force vibes. It's a question from Aryan. Agent Force vibes, you mean the extension that you use it for your core things, right? I believe. So if not, just share. So let's discuss that separately. Sanjeev, is there any performance issues compared to VS Code Editor? I personally feel VS Code Editor runs in local, then it will be faster than Web Console. Correct. So VS Code editor that you run in your local has a lot of steps. You may be opening a lot of projects, multiple projects here and there, retry multiple files rather than focusing on the developer, things in the Salesforce. You'll be focusing on other things, fixing all this issue. But since you launched the web console right directly from Europe, your full focus will be on the Salesforce related steps, nothing else. Aryan, if you're on the call, you can help me explain. Okay. No, the current, no. Okay, it's a really a good question. The current Agent Force Bytes ID, that is completely different from Web Console. The one discrepancy that the Agent Force Vibes has is it has a lot of features, the great features, but it can't reach certain markets, for example the government clouds, and all those other stuffs. But web console is built on the secure and trusted platform, so it can reach any market, any region, any cloud. So that's the advantage of the web console. And of course Agentforce Types ID is comes up with the price. You have to pay the price since it has a lot of functionalities. But web console, since it is in a beta, it has limited features at this point of time, but it involves no license cost, so you can access it anytime. And if you want to know more about like, okay, I'm using this, like what license it's going to cost for me, like is it going to eat up my license money? So you can, for all those clarity related questions, you can always reach out to Salesforce. I hope that answers your question, Aryan. Do we need any extension once enable web console? Good question from Mukesh. So once you launch the web console, Salesforce by default loads its extension and there won't be any option to download additional third-party extensions in the web console. So you don't need to worry about that. There is a question from Paul. Is this export feature available in web console? Can you help clarify what export feature that you are looking into it, Paul? Is it some kind of CSV or some kind of exporting the, of course you can do exporting the logs, that you can do it. Any other questions? Okay,
There is no question, Yogesh. Mathematically. Thank you.
okay, let me stop sharing. Let me open my. Oh, okay, so I logged in one of the developer edition orgs. So we will start from the very basics. So how do I enable the web console? It's that simple. Go to the setup, quick find, and just search for web console. That's it. And you can just need to toggle this active button to make use of it. And it's always a best practice, not just blindly going and toggling any buttons. Just read through these statements, what this feature is and what it's meant for me or my client or a customer or whoever it is, right? Always read through this. It says admins can enable it or go ahead and set it as default ID when available, right? And it also says it's a beta service and it's subject to the beta services agreement that we spoke about. And it's not like anyone who can simply go ahead and turn on this. It's with the users who has the view all data permissions to access the web console can only turn on this feature, and then they can access it in the that setup gear icon over here. Okay, so once it is activated, it's again simple one. If you click the gear icon over here, you will see the web console over here. And just click on it to open it. Yes, this is the web console. Give it some time to load. Mm, it's taking some time to load. Give it a moment. So whoever has access for all data, those users only use this web console right in the org. That's kind of a tricky question, Shiva. So of course you're a developer, right? Obviously you have all data access and you can use the web console, right? And business users, they might have all data, but there are system permissions that might be missing for them, so they can't access the dev console. Okay, first, this screen, I don't need to explain, I believe. So you are very familiar with this screen, VS Code screen, but the only difference is it sits in the your art browser rather than in your local. So this particular icon, you are very well aware. So where you can see all your, Salesforce related stuffs, the SFDX or SF file structure. And the next screen is you can search. And of course, someone asked the question, is it performant efficient rather than, struggling with multiple things? Yes, since it is just Salesforce related stuffs, you can quickly go ahead and search for the file, whatever you want. And then this is the test file. There is a question from Paul. Can Agentforce in Sales help site analyze extract from web console? At this point of time, no, because both are two different environments, because web console is completely different and Agentforce sits in your help inside your org. But it's a great thought. I will definitely share this information with product managers and I'll get back to you. And this is a testing suite where you can run your test and then you can explore all your test class things, the coverage, the test class issues. And then if you want to run a file reference against any particular file in the org, so that details you can see it over here. And this is your org browser where you can see all your, right now I have only simple the Apex classes only. But if you have LWC triggers, all those stuff, so you can quickly refresh it and retrieve it. And you might be noticing there is no other icons available to download multiple extensions and all those stuffs. Yes, it's not available because this is only for the Salesforce experience. In future, it might grow with your feedbacks. As of now, you can't extend or you can't download any extensions. What's the difference between Lightning Studio extension and the web console? From Ali Raja. I think Lightning Studio extension, I believe it's not owned by Salesforce. It's a I think there is a person who built that, but Web Console is the official native product from Salesforce. I hope that answers your question. There is a question from Kalai Selvan. It's not showing all the components with complete code. We have to retrieve one by one component from metadata. Is there a way to retrieve complete repo into the Web Console? Yes and no. Um, so you can retrieve it whatever you want, and you can always run the terminal commands, sfdx terminal commands. You can, or you can run your package.xml. This org is very limited, so that's why I'm not getting an option. But when you try to run it in your actual customer related orgs, you can retrieve it anytime. At the same time, when you're testing any scheduled job errors, you can directly launch from there. Don't have to retrieve everything from the complete things that you need it in your web console to investigate it, right? You just need whatever you want at this point of time, right? I hope that answers your question. Do we expect the web console to continue as a long-term solution, or is the possibility of being replaced in the future similar to the transition from process builder to the flow? Really a great question from Sanjeev. At this point of time, there is no such definitive statements from Salesforce that it's going to be the long-term solution or the fixed solution. Of course, it's going to change, and then it's going to grow as well, and based on the community feedbacks. And there is no statement also that saying that this is going to replace many stuffs, all those things. And of course, it's going to be a replacement for the developer console, but other than that, there is no such statements. There is a question from Paul. Is Web Console browser agnostic? In other words, can it work on any browser? Certain cybersecurity companies use. Yes, of course. I believe it respects all those browser things, and it gets launched in all types of browsers. So far, I've tested in Chrome, Firefox, and then Microsoft Edge. It didn't throw me any errors. So if you come across any other specific constraints that it blocks the Web Console, please let Salesforce know or let me know in LinkedIn. I will reach out to the product managers. How debug is done in this? Subha Shelby. So we are going to see that in a moment. Before that, any other questions? There is a question from Akash. Hi Lokesh, whenever you're opening web console, it will consume API limits. I don't think so. It is not going to consume any API limits. It's just a browser-based extension that you can launch it from here. Or at this point of time, I'm not aware of any API limits that it consumes. But if you have seen it, if you have seen it when you're using it in your customer ops, let me know. I will take a dig into it. And like I said, like there is no license involved. No, there is no license cost involved with the web console. It can reach any industries in any regions, anywhere. So it respects all those countries, the laws. So let's say if you take government clouds or the European clouds, it has to abide by the restrictions of the local laws. Web console does that, and it protects all those that stuffs, and it's built based on the underlying architecture is built based on all those restrictions in place. Any other question? Okay. And you can set up the theme like the VS Code you want, and then you can all do all those stuffs in the basic uh, things in the web console. And this is a question. So let's say I want to set up a trace logs, like you see here, this is a trace flags, and you will see create trace flag for current user, right? And if I click on it, it will just ask for my details, and it fetches all my details within a second. Like if you use VS Code, you have to set up all this, but within a second, because it's already context aware, and it fetched my name, Logesh M, and all those details. And if you want to remove it, you can remove it as well. Or you can set a trace flag for another user as well by setting all those informations, and you can create the debug levels as well to debug your codes. So this is also one of the plus points. And then these are the sample things that I have run over here. So if you see here, I've run one of the debug things for one of my Apex classes. You can quickly go through this, and yeah, of course, it's very short because my code is very simple. But if you have seen the bulk codes or the more than 300 lines of codes, so these numbers will grow, and it will take a lot of time to go through that things in the developer console, right? But this with this intuitive experience, you can quickly go through this, or you can run the scripts if you want to, just to make sure, like, okay, this is what I'm looking, what is my heap size, what is my execution context. So this is really important when you run any debug logs, right? So how many queries are being used, how many DML statements are being used, what are the callouts, all those things you will get it inside your this unified experience. And then of course I just put these things in to just execute one of my sample Apex classes, so you can do that as well. I'll show it in a minute. And these are the stuffs. And coming to the classes, so these are some of the sample classes that I have extracted. You can extract it or drive it from here or any time, but there are some times like where you want certain classes open without even trying it. I will show you in a minute. So this is one of the sample class, and it supports the metadata XML. You can control it. And I don't have any LWC in this particular org, but you can retrieve it and generate it, and you can, debug it as well. And what I'm going to do is I am going to anonymous create. Okay, I think I can run this. Yeah, execute anonymous Apex with currently open editor. So it's executing it, and it executed, and it gave me all the results as well. So you don't need to worry about the CLI, Java JDK, and all those extension setups. So it is right inside your context and the browser. You can just simply execute your debug anonymous window, and you can explore whatever or how much of ever the file size it is. You can right now explore over it over here. And then of course you can run the sockles as well. For example, I have the sockle, and once you provide the sockle, there will be two options. You can run this query, and it will give you the result. So that's the first option. And I know it's accessing the data, and you might be thinking, oh no, like, no, I don't want to access the data right inside the web console. Like I said earlier, this is sitting on the highly secured environment, so you don't need to worry about that, because when it sits on a local multiple extensions that you might be running, so that is where you need to think about your data security. But this sits in on the secured environment. You don't need to worry about your data. And there is another option, get the query plan. What is query plan? That's again a broader topic that we will discuss it later, maybe in some other session. But it gives you the high level overview of how your query going to perform when you put this query actual in the Apex classes. And it gives a lot of metrics like the cardinality, the cost of this particular query, what particular object it is, and also it provides a description, because right now I don't have any filter, but it always recommended to put filter rather than querying the lot of things with just limit in it. So that's a good thing about all these things. And of course, I ran multiple other queries as well. Now let's look at one of the issues that I have executed. So what I did is I just created a scheduled Apex, and I scheduled it. Imagine a scenario like I explained earlier when in my presentation. You got an issue in the production, and that says like your scheduled job is failing, it's throwing a null pointer exception or a static query exception. And what you typically do, you come to the dev console or you open your VS Code, and you search for the classes, where that class is or what even that class is, right? And then just start going through it. But with this web console, if you come to the Apex jobs, you will see this edit. And if you click edit, let me close this out. If you click edit, I think you are seeing my different screen. Let me open that. it's somehow blocking me to show the other screen. But when you click on it, you will get a pop-up of your browser-based web console that will open like this, and it will take you to the particular epics. That is this epics. Just let it run. Yes. So it will automatically land on your this particular epics classes, where you can just quickly go through what exactly the query exception, what it is failing. For some reason, it's blocking me, this particular share. So when you click edit, it will show you a pop-up of how your web console looks, and it will immediately launch this particular class rather than you searching for the class in the web console. That's one of the specialty that we have in web console. Yeah, I think that's all we have. If you have any questions, you can shoot. I think there is some. There's a question from Bharat. Can changes be trackable? And I think it's in the similar lines where Aryan is asking, can we run Git commands in Web Console terminal, or is it built-in support source control or GitHub support? Right now, Web Console doesn't support any of the CI/CD operations. I think Agent Force wipes IDE support, but Web Console doesn't at this point of time. Um, so it may grow in future, but yeah, that's where we are now.